Hello, my name is Sungchul Jung. I'm a PhD student working under Professor Hughes at the University of Central Florida. I'm going to present the research associated with this paper, RealME, the influence of body and hand representation on body ownership and presence. I'm going to talk about this presentation with these issues. Because of a high-resolution HMDs and tracking technology, virtual reality applications can now provide immersive experience at a relatively low cost. In VR application, a first-person perspective system is generally used, so a user's view looks similar with these images. Here, we include a hand, as the virtual hand has a critical role in VR applications, whether it is rendered partially like this or rendered fully like that. Our motivation is to determine what happens if we see indirectly uninvolved our body parts when we are controlling a virtual body part, especially hand. Just imagine that when you see the dead virtual mirror, then if we see our real body reflection through the virtual mirror, then we will sense the virtual hand as if our own hand or not. To study the influence of a real body cue on one sense of illusion, we conducted an experiment using a virtual mirror. Because of some non-standard terminology used in my research area, I would like to introduce key concepts first. The body ownership is a well-known concept in psychology. It is where it is viewed as a fundamental aspect of self-consciousness of one's body. The rubber hand experiment is a famous example for body ownership depicted in the first images. The experiment placed a rubber arm as a fake arm near the participant, and the experiment gives a tactile feedback using a brush on the both hands at the same time. Then what will happen? Surprisingly, the participant could feel the rubber arm as if their own arm. This concept of body ownership naturally extended to virtual reality because understanding a given virtual body shows its importance for sense of illusion in VR, while the virtual space provides a flexible experimental environment for such experiment on body ownership. Recently, the virtual body ownership test focused the hand with diverse aspects. Because the hand is the most frequently used human body part during the performance of tasks, hand ownership has been studied widely in both real environment and the virtual environment as well. Researchers have found diverse factors that can arouse the sense of body ownership in VR. These factors include the visual tactile, visual motor, and the resemblance. In contrast to the traditional factors, our study based on two other recent findings associated with body continuity and the real body cue. Body continuity is a visual connection between virtual torso to associate with the hand or leg. For example, the left image in the leftmost image shows the fully rendered body continuity, while the right image shows the disconnected, broken body continuity. Researchers have argued that body continuity should be considered as a supportive factor for sense of body ownership. Related to virtual body ownership test, a virtual mirror was used in study prior to ours. The research associated with the left image shows that relationship between motor action and the virtual body ownership. They demonstrate the importance of a synchrony of the virtual mirror reflected avatar with a participant movement. In the middle image shows that the researchers investigate the relationship between appropriate appearance for context and the virtual body ownership. Also, some of researchers suggest that The posture of our body also has an important role for body ownership. Presence is a bit different concept rather than body ownership, even though they are inherently related to each other. Basically, presence is the sense of being in a real environment, as you know. Depending on the features, we can discuss different notions of presence, including co-presence and the social presence and the spatial presence. In this presentation, I'm going to talk about with only spatial presence. In this study, we investigate the effect of a visually personalized body cue to virtual hand ownership and the spatial presence, including body continuity. To run our research, we proposed two research questions. The first one, do personalized visual cues influence the sense of body ownership of one's virtual hand and of one's sense of presence? The second one, do personalized visual body cue create a psychological continuity between a participant's real body and their purely virtual hand? Because we used a purely virtual and unconnected hand in this study, we expect a strong psychological connectivity to be aroused when participants see their real body reflection through the virtual mirror. Before we conducted our experiment, we set 4 hypotheses regarding body representation, body continuity, body model, and the expected best combination. For body representation, we expected that personalized virtual body representation will be more immersive rather than generic virtual body representation. For body continuity, when you have a fully rendered hand which has a full body continuity, will be immersive rather than the arm removed hand model. For body model, if we have a dynamic model condition, which means we can control our hand, then it will give more immersive rather than static condition. Lastly, we expected that the combination of a personalized virtual body and a full model hand and the dynamic model condition will give the best level of virtual body ownership and the body continuity, agency, and the presence. To investigate the experimental hypothesis, we designed our study using a virtual mirror. We set independent variables with 2 types of body representation, 2 types of hand continuity, 2 types of motor action. For dependent variables, we set VBOI, virtual body ownership illusion, BC, body continuity, agency, and the presence. We adopt a virtual thread to observe subjective responses, and then we will show you all the whole protocol of this study and then show the result analysis. As I mentioned, we placed a virtual mirror to see body representation in a VR office, as you see in the red box in the image A. We designed a simple virtual office, so the user's focus will be on the virtual mirror and hand interaction during this study. Picture B shows that an experimental room, which is isolated from other environment, so we could prevent any distraction from the real environment. And in the place, we put the stand on which the participant rest, right hand on it. We used a PC with an Intel Core i7 and a 16 GB memory, and then GeForce 1080 slide graphics card. We developed within Unity 5 on Windows 10. We used the HTC Vive and then Kinect 2. Our study received approval from UCF's IRB office. As independent variables, we prepared 2 types of body representation. The first one is a personalized body reflection, and the other one is a general avatar body reflection. The image C represent an example of the participant initial pose. We asked them sitting on a stool in a normal forward-facing position toward an LGBT camera with their right hand on the physical stand. This image C is the identical image with the B. As you see the image A, the participant could observe their personalized body reflection through the virtual mirror, or they could observe the general avatar body reflection that is dependent on the experimental conditions. To implement the personalized body reflection, we used an image from an RGB camera. Even though the reflected image seems blurry, in fact, in the actual study, most of the participants could clearly notice the reflection as their own body reflection. Even they could notice that specific patterns or features of their clothes. In both conditions, participants could see their leg movement through the virtual mirror. We prepared two types of virtual hand representations, one that is normally rendered as a full connected hand and arm, and the other one as an arm removed hand model. Also, we provide two types of hand motor conditions, one in which you could move your surrogate hand and one where the hand did not move. We track the user's hand movement using the IGBT camera while in the dynamic situation, while we turn off the camera in the static condition. To measure the participant subjective response, we prepared 7 questions using a 7-point Likert scale. From 1 is strongly disagree, 7 is strongly agree. We adopt and slightly modify the set of pre-validated questions and calculate a Cronbach alpha test for validation. Because we use only one question each of agency and the presence, we did not provide the Cronbach alpha test. We asked these questions via headphones so participants could respond verbally while they were in the VR office. All responses were recorded in real time. We used a virtual thread that of a photorealistic rock falling on the user's virtual right hand. We randomized the time and the location within the hand area. We dropped the rock 5 times over a 1-minute interval. As I mentioned, we had 3 independent variables, so we designed the study as a 2x2x2 mixed within between factorial design. Because we thought that the body representation is the most critical factor in this study, we conducted our experiment with body representation as a between subject factor. In our study protocol, we first asked the participants to read an informed consent and to fill out a demographics form before they were in the experimental room. After they were in the experimental room, we asked them to sit on a stool and gave them information about our study related how they would experience this system. We then placed the Vibe HMD and the headphone on the participant and asked them to look at their right arm from the shoulder to hand at once while they were in VR office, and also asked them to look at the virtual mirror to observe their lower body representations as well. To make sure their understanding, we provide the verbal instruction using a Native American's voice in the VR office. After that, we conducted 2 pair of sessions, and then we gave them a 3-minute break time. After that, we run 2 other sessions as well with different conditions. After finishing all this study, we developed this study with the participant and finished. Before we conducted this study, we ran G-Power with the power of 0.80, which is a medium effect size. We had a total of 41 participants, and we had an almost even division of participants, as you see this table. For the personalized body representation test, we had 15 male and 6 female, and the mean age was 21.1. For general virtual body representation, we have 15 male, 5 female, and the mean age was 21.65. We recruited the participant with a normal to correct normal vision participant only. Because of the factorial study design, we ran maneuver for statistical analysis for VVOI and BC, while we ran Kruskal-Wallis test for agency and then presence because they were non-parametric data sets. We confirmed the VVOI and the BC measures were normally distributed before analyzing this data. Also, we ran this study in counterbalanced order. Also, we provided $10 each for each of the participants. I'd like to show the result in this slide. Before I begin, I'd like to talk to you. We ran a statistical test with a p-value set at the 5% significant level for each of BBOI, BC, agency, and the presence. As you see the main effect graph and the box plot graph, we observed the interesting result that body representation and hand type had a strong impact on virtual body ownership. We found a significant difference between personalized body representation and the fully rendered hand representation. Thus, as we expected, a personalized body representation with a fully rendered hand model gave a higher BBOI rather than virtual avatar representation with the arm removed hand model. Similar to virtual body ownership, the main impact graph and the body box plot graph explicitly shows that the variation in body representation and the hand representation shows a significant difference. Thus, as we expected as well, a fully rendered hand with a personalized body representation gave a higher body continuity rather than arm removed hand with a general avatar body representation. Not surprisingly, we found that motor condition had a higher effect on agency. The affordance of motor function shows the significant difference. Thus, as we expected again, a dynamic motor condition gave a higher agency rather than static motor condition. Unlike previous research, we did not statistically support the result that body representation had a positive influence on the main effect result regarding a sense of presence. Still, the personalized virtual body representation shows a significant level for presence compared to avatar body representation. However, the motor condition did not show any significant difference for presence. We also provide numerical statistical result in this table. As you see this first column, a personalized body representation with a fully rendered hand model shows the highest mean value for each dependent variables. Also, if we consider the motor conditions result as well, then it shows the highest value when we have a combination of personalized body representation and a fully rendered hand model under a dynamic motor condition. Thus, our hypothesis was supported. Here, I'd like to provide a details of observed issue in this experiment. The first thing, during the dynamic motor condition, subjects demonstrate the protective behaviors of such as avoidance or touching or hitting the falling rock. Second, we used a real body image for the virtual mirror reflection to avoid any artifacts that would arise from the point cloud from the Kinect 2. As a result, the participant could observe their body without any visual artifacts. However, we still have a limitation in this study. The first one, the number of dependent variables was not large. Second, we should have had more objective measurement to support the results from the subjective measurement. To wrap up this study, this presentation, we investigate the effect of a visually personalized body representation on dominant illusions such as VVOI, BC, and the presence and agency. In this paper, we found that a personalized visual body representation is a significant factor for such illusions. We provided a strong combination to allow such illusions that was personalized virtual body and fully modeled hand and dynamic motor condition. One of the contributions on what I saw of this paper is we presented results that informed a developer how to compensate for unavailable options when they were in the situation for design trade-off. We showed that removing visual artifacts improved a participant's sense of presence as well. As a future work, we will implement a personalized virtual hand using natural human features such as skin color or wrinkles or wound. Also, we may adopt a artificial features such as if a participant have a artificial feature such as a ring or watches or bracelet, then using the features, we will implement the personalized virtual hand because we believe that it will improve the human perception. Since we already demonstrate the effectiveness of personalized visual cue in direct way using a virtual mirror, we believe that we hypothesize that personalized visual cue of a person's own hand dramatically increase their sense of illusion in a synthetic reality environment. Thank you for listening.
Hi, thanks. That was really interesting. I had a question.